Back again. I bet you're wondering why I'm holding this. This contains the ashes of who we call Junior. Now this has a bit of a story. My boyfriend at the time, who I'd been with for a while, asked me to move to Colorado with him after he was done with college and all that. And being in love with him as I am, I agreed. So, June 1st, I moved with him to Colorado, back to his home, which became mine. Sometime in June, I'm not sure the date exactly, sometime in June and the beginning of July, I found out I was pregnant. My first thought was that it was triplets. Mother's instinct, I don't know. So we decided to make an appointment. But before we could, I didn't have Medicaid yet, so we chose to go through a group called Choices. We thought it'd be a good way to go through classes and things like that. But when they did that ultrasound, found out that there was 3 separate sacs, one of which didn't have a body in it anymore. And so my first hunch was right. But apparently the baby never really made it to the sac, which I couldn't really get attached to the child or anything like that, so just didn't think about it. So left me with a set of twins. Erica comes later. Sorry, she's on the brain. But anyway, it was Junior and a daughter we chose to name Catherine. Cat for short. I carried them, excuse me for a minute, for a little while, but when I finally got the appointment to see an actual gynecologist, I found out that Cat had disappeared, what they referred to as a disappearing twin. Not sure exactly when we had lost her. I believe it was between week 8 and week 14. I was not very happy. I didn't know what to do. My gynecologist basically said that my body had absorbed her back in and the sac was no longer there. And which was very hard on me. And on the way home, I bawled like a baby. But I also was still full of joy because we still had Junior. Found out at that visit that his possible due date would have been November, or I take that back, that was March 9th of 2010. So sometime down the road we were doing fine. I would get the occasional nausea. Found out I couldn't eat after a certain time of night because it would get worse. I wouldn't throw up per se, but I would feel really sick if I ate after 9 o'clock at night. I had the protection from my husband and the love of a Jack Russell Terrier that I thought was the greatest thing at the time to keep me from thinking I was going to lose him, our son. I believe a lot of things that some of you may not understand. And I've seen a lot of things that most people don't understand. A lot of things that I might tell you, you may not believe, others may. I felt really sick one day. My husband was off at work, and our roommate was on the phone. I was feeling really sick that day for some reason. So I told the roommate I was going to go lie down. I laid down, and my Jack Russell Terrier, of course, laid down next to me. I must have zoned out. I don't know. I woke up and I saw a figure standing at the doorway of my bedroom. And the smell of cigar smoke was in the air. The figure walked toward me and reached into my stomach. Zeus, my dog at the time, stood up, let out a bark, lunged at the figure, and it disappeared. Which scared the heck out of me. I came to, went to in the living room where my roommate was on the phone with Christopher's mother. I was shaking, I was freaking out. I reached down to touch him and apparently sent a shock through him, and his mother felt it on the other side of the phone. A few days later, we had an appointment and found out that poor Junior's heart was what they call off axis, and his fluid sac was low, which means the liquid inside was low. We didn't think nothing of it, and at 21 weeks, a few days before that actually, my body was trying to go into labor, but it stopped. I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now, that at the time he was already gone. The 21-week appointment came around, and we went to the doctor, and there was no heartbeat from him, and they couldn't find him. His body was there, but he wasn't moving. So it chose to go straight over. There was no way we were going to let the baby stay inside me and make me sick. Little did I know that he was already deteriorating and making me sick. So we went over and they put us in a room. I guess it was a room that they reserved for mothers that needed to do what I needed to do. I didn't have anything with me, no clothing, no nothing except for what I had on. My husband had to call in to work and they gave him legally his 3 days. And they proceeded to hook me up to IVs. And that wasn't fun. They always have a hard time finding my veins in my arms. But they got the needles in. I proceeded to pass out until about 2 something in the morning, and I felt very, very painful all over my body. The doctors came in and asked me if I needed an epidural, and of course I said yes. They tried to keep me calm as I was hurting. They got the epidural in and I felt no pain after that. They had me on an epidural, fentanyl, and a sleeping pill. A few hours later, about, I want to say 5:30 in the morning, it felt like a bubble burst. No pain, of course, from the epidural was still in me. And my first thought was, the baby is here. I woke my husband up, who was trying to sleep on an uncomfy couch, and told him, I think my water just broke. He got up, walked across the room, and made the mistake of actually lifting up the blanket. And yes, he was here. My husband went to the phone to call the nurse in, and the nurse was already on her way. Was coming in the door. He says to the nurse, "When's Junior coming out?" She looked down, looked up at him and said, "He's already here." There wasn't much to him. It just looked like a little red blob. My husband then made the mistake of watching me having to push what was left of the afterbirth out, as he looks at the nurse like, "Oh boy." She kind of jokingly said, "You didn't need to see that part." I began to get a very, very bad fever from Junior's body deteriorating inside me beforehand. So they kept me in the hospital overnight. My husband called our roommate at the time and let him know that we had to stay another night, and explained to him why. We found out that also Zeus, about 5 o'clock in the morning, had let out a very bad cry at the trailer, apparently realizing what was going on and not being around to help me through it. Dogs weren't allowed in the hospital anyway. From all the excitement and all the pain, and they got the epidural out, the nurse let me know that they had to keep an eye on me for a while and things like that, to make sure I was still letting a lot of the tissues and stuff that were back behind out. We discussed it for a little while. We weren't sure if we wanted to have him buried or have him cremated. We discussed it for a very long time until the doctor let us know that to do when they, because we did decide to have an autopsy done to find out what happened. They let us know that there wouldn't be a whole lot of him left. So we both agreed to have him cremated. We got to spend a little time with him, and we couldn't really hold him because there was just nothing there to hold. I put the body in a little pink crate with a little blanket. They gave us a little teddy bear. And when they took him, they brought back a little onesie that they would have put him in if he would have made it. A little blue one. With a little card. They tried to get his footprints, but there wasn't much to get. It was just too little. So we got to spend the night with him in a little box next to my bed. We talked to him throughout the night until we passed out. The nurses came in the next morning to let us know that it was time to say goodbye, which I had a very hard time doing. I've carried him so long inside my body that it was in a deep attachment, but I knew that what you guys call God, I call the Creator, needed him for a higher purpose, and he needed to be with his sister. So November 6th was the day we had to let him out, and the 7th is when I had to say goodbye. Not just me, but my husband. And in memory of him, we made a page on Facebook for him, as most of our friends know, and our family knows. And little Christopher Jr. is forever with us, not just with his ashes nearby, but with the love we feel for him. He comes and visits us. He's actually kind of scared my husband along with the rest of them. But we still love them. And this is the end of part 2.